Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Scale Up Spotlight. I am Priyanka Vergaria, Staff Developer Advocate here at Google Cloud. And I want to welcome you to the next 2 hours or so of just amazing fun and learning. For the next 2 hours, we're going to help you solve for the future of your business with the latest and best in cloud technology. If your goal is growth, you are in the right place. Get ready to learn more about our recent announcements in generative AI and how we're bringing those models to developers through Google Cloud. You will also have a chance to connect with Asia Pacific's thriving community of innovative startups, Google experts, and technical talent from across the region. We're going to explore best practices, strategies for implementing new cloud technology with in-depth content around the future of machine learning, AI, application modernization, and developer support. But before we do all that, let's take a quick look at everything that you will need to know to get the most out of the time with us today. First, we have the Home tab on the navigation bar at the very top of your page. If you click there, you will find the day's schedule, including the titles, start times, and the speaker details. Plenty of you find using this tool a super helpful way to plan out the day and get mentally prepared for what's coming. So utilize that. When you're ready to get started, all you would need to do is click on that Watch Live to jump into the current session. If you look down below on the video screen, you will see a blue button that says Ask Your Questions Here. That's your opportunity to click and ask any questions that you have throughout the event. And then in the spirit of preparing for the future together, we would make it collaborative conversation that everyone watching today can join, respond, ask questions, just have fun with it. In just a moment, I will also be joined by Arnav Pandey, who's the Chief Product Officer at Jiva, and we'll explore a little bit of AI and ML with low-code and fully managed services. So we'll explore these options for powerful but familiar AI ML tools that you might already know exist in the Google Cloud Toolkit. And then we will walk through with Yoshi Yamaguchi and Deepak Sharda, who's the VP of Engineering at Endow.us. Well, they'll take us through reliability essentials and why service level metrics are key to driving good system health. Then after that, we are going to head over to our expert panel, which is named as Breaking Barriers with AI and how startups can disrupt industries and drive innovation. And in that session, it's led by one of our data analytics practice lead, Jean Michael Kaur, and we'll be joined by Tejas Dinkar, who is the CTO at Jiva, Gaurav Buna, who's the co-founder at Next Billion AI, and Shayan Hui, who is the executive director at AceG Innovative. I think this is going to be a fun conversation about bringing AI and into the startup ecosystem. So I think we're going to learn a lot there as well. Then we will wrap up with a live Q&A with myself and Yoshi, and that would be also your opportunity to ask more questions or just get these questions going throughout the day, and then we will pick them up in the Q&A session. With that, without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so we'll start with exploring the future of AI and ML with low-code and fully managed services. Some of this you might have already seen, but most of it is about generative AI because it is the hot topic. So we'll start with that. We'll learn a little bit about what generative AI is. Then we'll also see the history of Google's history of generative AI. Talk a little bit about responsible AI because without that, the world of AI is non-explainable. Then generative AI solutions and how they apply into the real world problems, and we'll see some of those solutions. And then at the very end is where we'll talk a little bit about the generative AI offerings in Google Cloud and how you can use them. With that, we have really, in order to introduce generative AI, I have to sort of go back a little bit into history. I think at this point in time, today, we have entered the Industrial Revolution sort of 4.0. And this is the era that is getting defined by intuitive interactions between humans and technology through processing and generating language in different models such as text and audio and video and images. It's a very exciting time to be alive, I think. And generative AI will really have this massive impact on all the industries. The rate at which this technology is diffusing into industries other than software is really unprecedented. We saw this with the release and widespread adoption of several consumer-facing applications like ChatGPT and Stable Diffusion, which set historical records for user growth. And so it kind of speaks for itself that where this is going and where this is headed. So let's demystify a little bit of what generative AI is. This is sort of my definition, like where were we in the world of programming and then where we are today. So if you think about traditional programming, that was very specific to a set of instructions that you provide to a computer, and then it executes and works on those instructions. You had to know precisely which sequence of actions to follow to get that from that input to the output. Then came the world of neural networks in around 2012, and we started training AI with a bunch of data. Consider this example of training it with animal pictures and teaching the AI which ones were pictures of cat versus other animals. And after a certain amount of training, the AI became able to recognize that, okay, I know that this is a cat picture with great quality and confidence. The model is, in this case also, the model is a single task. It is trained to solve a specific problem, whether this picture has a cat or not. Now, when we talk about large language models, it introduces this brand new paradigm. Models are multitask, they're trained on multiple large amounts of data sets. It's a bit like if you had given a child or somebody an entire encyclopedia and then asked them a variety of questions across multiple domains. They'd be able to answer it because you have them trained on this large amount of data. And that's what large language models are. Now, with that, let me walk you through a little bit of the revolution and where it started. So this revolution started at Google, and we continue to innovate. And here's our path. So what you're seeing up on the screen here is sort of that path of the transformer research and the diffusion models, and that have been the basis of the generative AI application that we see today. And it started in 2017. We came out with a research paper. If you haven't heard about it, it's called Attention is All You Need. And this was what paved the way for transformer-based architecture to build these large language models. It started this revolution of large language models in 2017. We open-sourced that architecture. And in 2018, we built the world's first language model called BERT, which is bidirectional encoder representations from transformers, and open-sourced it in 2018. In 2019, we created an open-sourced T5, which is text-to-text transfer transformer, which is a 10 billion parameter large language encoder-decoder model. And then in 2020, we published LaMDA, which is the language model for dialogue applications, which is trained on dialogue data. So this model could really talk about virtually anything in human terms, in natural language. In 2021, we created high-fidelity image generation using diffusion models, and also PaLM, which is Pathways Language Model with 540 billion parameters. So a large scope, a large data set as well. In 2022, we created Confident Adaptive Language Modeling, or CALM, that is accelerating the text generation of large language models. And this is obviously just the beginning and the foundation of the work that we are doing to support our customers. And that brings me to some of the recent launches here. So talking about supporting our customers, earlier this month, we launched PaLM API in private preview. And what this means is now you can experiment with the large language model that we called PaLM with the 540 billion parameters. And this helps us get started on this journey, and our goal is to really make it easy and safe for developers, creators, enterprises to build with Google's most powerful language models. And now, as you start to experiment and use it, it'll give us more feedback and that we can incorporate to make these models even better. With that, I would like to show you another announcement, which we did in Workspace, and we announced a whole bunch of generative AI features to make us more productive in writing emails and documents and sending customer invites. So take a look at this one. New era of getting things done. We summarized an email, we created a campaign, we did all of that in the voice that we wanted it. Very exciting features. And now, before we get any further into trying to understand how to build and what Google Cloud offerings allow you to get to this point of generative AI, I want to start off with a little bit of responsible AI and an intro to that. So at Google, we really believe that responsible AI is successful AI. And our AI principle is really the constitution by which we build our products, conduct research, and draft our policies. So principles are really only effective when they are operationalized, and that's what we believe in. So these are some of our principles. And in order to put these principles into practice in a systematic and repeatable way, we leverage internal governance processes. And also a part of that is, that brings me into the generative AI piece. And generative AI comes with its own set of unique challenges. So at Google, again, we are integrating AI into our products very boldly and with a deep sense of responsibility and highest standards of information integrity with our AI principles. And additionally, we're working really hard to develop additional highly relevant, responsible AI resources and tooling for our generative AI offerings. And these will be coming in a few weeks or so. And some of them are already in there, like explainable AI, things like that, that helps you just understand what's going on with the models that you're building. But stay tuned for more things along those lines. And our goal is to really continue to be that bold and responsible in our approach and partner with others like you, our customers, to improve these AI models so they are safe and useful for everybody. So I really like to talk about the responsible AI piece before we get into the details of how to actually implement this, because it's on us to build the right kind of AI. And with that, let's get into a little bit of the use cases. The generative AI powers a lot of different use cases. So large language models promise this incredible opportunity for a large number of industries. We can combine a lot of the data and make intuitive decisions based off of this data, so it helps analysts. There's also customer service that you can make better and provide online interactions with conversations to your customers. So that's another use case. Generating creative content is a third use case that is going to get pretty popular and is already getting very popular when you can generate text, images, code samples, videos, and music, which is novel based off of the training that you've done on that model. And some of the other ones are your AI practitioners because you can customize foundational models, which I'm going to talk about later, your AI practitioners are going to become even more powerful because they can now work on just editing some of the foundational models that exist. And then the last piece here is developer productivity. And these are just a sample list. There's a lot more use cases, but these are some that come top of mind. Developer productivity is going to be a big one where we help improve developers' lives as they are writing the code, making it easier for them with suggestions or providing them ability to fix code or get ideas on what's next. So with that, let me move into some of the examples of generative AI. This is an example of information retrieval and analysis where a user is typing in the search bar details of what they would like to see in their internal repository of let's say papers or you could also call these maybe press releases of a company, and they're making this search based on some keywords. And once they did that, they're able to identify, this is a large language model at play, they're able to identify which letters or which sentences are leading into the search that they have made, and all those papers or press releases pop up, and they can now select whichever ones they want to read. This next use case is assistive experience. And this is a large language model that is powering chatbots. So here you're seeing that a US government page can be turned into a quickly accessible portal for even the most complex situations, such as figuring out which visa you need for what situation. And those chatbots are stateful in nature, which means that they remember the entire history of your conversation and allow for that human-like follow-up questions throughout the interactions. And these tools can also be applied to your most complex data scenarios and really level up how your data analysts work with those business use cases. Here, this next use case is of multimodality. This is an example of tuning the search bar at Nike into a conversation-powered interaction where the user can describe their ideal shoe and refine it along the way and get the exact shoe that they want to see. And all of which leads to a higher customer satisfaction and drives conversations. Here's an example of content generation where generative AI will improve productivity and democratizes the access to AI and ML through the ability to create content at a click of a button. And here there's a cafe. They want to get an image on their cafe or at the main page of their website, and they're trying to generate that image with text, and they're telling the large language model what kind of background they want. They want a Golden Gate Bridge in the background, and it shows up as a generative AI model generates the image that they can use at the main page of the website. So these are the types of examples that would be empowered with generative AI. Now, we at Google obviously invite you to take that technical leap with us, to work with these products that we've created, and we want to partner with you to co-innovate for the future. And here are some of the tools that we have in store to help us do that. So before we get into the generative AI, let's look at Vertex AI, which is our end-to-end platform to build, train, and serve machine learning models, including the maintenance and monitoring of those models. And for those that want full control of model building process, this is really where you want to start. It's the bottom two layers of the ML ops and the custom workflow in that picture that apply to that end-to-end workflow. Now, Vertex AI also offers Data Science Toolkit, which is the Vertex Workbench. So if you're familiar with Jupyter Notebooks, Vertex Workbench is really a hosted version of Jupyter Notebooks that you can customize to your machine learning framework and add those GPUs on top of it in order to train your models and serve them. It comes with integrations with Google Cloud services like BigQuery and Cloud Storage, so you can connect and get your data into the notebook and start analyzing it. It also has integrations with Git for collaboration across the data science team. The other part of this workflow is AutoML, or no-code, low-code models. So for those who do not want to make the entire model from scratch, and this could be for a lot of different reasons. You might have less resources. You might actually don't need to build your own models, because what we offer with image, text, tabular, and video data is pretty much all you need. And in those cases, you really don't have to build your own model. You can just use AutoML and use the world-class models that we have already built within Google, and we can apply those models on your data to create a custom model for you. And a little bit of that in this slide here. This is how AutoML works. It's a graphical interface. It's codeless in nature, so all you do is define your data sets, analyze your input features, and then the green portion there is what we are doing. We're looking for the right model from Google's Model Zoo, and then based on your data, we apply that right model to your data and then create the model for you, which you can evaluate, and you have the ability to then choose how you want to deploy that model. And then once it's deployed, we give you a link, or the API, which you can utilize to consume that model. So that's kind of how AutoML works. Now, this is expanding our portfolio with the generative AI and the LLM features. So the blue in here is our cloud portfolio as you know it. The greens are the various enhancements with large language models. So the recent interest in generative AI and LLMs now gives Google Cloud this perfect opportunity to expand on the features that we already have, the end-to-end features of creating Vertex AI, within Vertex AI, creating models. The generative AI app builder is going to help you build applications using the large language models. And then you're probably already familiar with contact center AI, the document AI, discovery AI, and healthcare AI. Those are the applications for very specific use cases that sit on top of this portfolio. So when I talk about the large language model capabilities, here are some of the large language models that we are providing as foundational models around text, code, image, dialogue, audio and music, and video. And once you have these models, so this is the video I would like to play to sort of show you the building, tuning, and deploying those foundational models in Vertex AI to build the generative AI experience for your use case. So there's two parts to this video. As it starts playing, what we're trying to do here is, the first part is going to show you that we are building this model with from the foundational model sources. And then we will go into tuning the model and designing it for our own use case. And then towards the end, we're going to show a use case where you are deploying that model for your production use case. So this is a Symbol, which is a sample company that we've picked up as an example. And as we get into the details, this is a healthy snacks company, so they're trying to build a campaign for their snacks. You'll see in Vertex AI, the foundational models start to show up. These are the open source model, the PaLM model that I talked about earlier that we just launched. You'll see all of those foundational models show up. A user can select the base model, the foundational model. You can tune and fine-tune that model to the needs of your specific business, in this case, the healthy snacks business. And once that fine-tuning is done and selected, we get into actually getting the model to tune with the settings that you would like. So in this case, you can browse it to use the brand voice. So if my brand is always, let's say, in a funny voice, in a humorous fashion, so I can feed that data in, and then it will tune the model to that. Now, at this point here in the studio, you can actually test out what it generated in the model, and then once it is generated, you're able to see if you like that output or if you would like to tune it even further. And once that is done, you can deploy that model and utilize it in your applications. With that, these are some of the features that I've already talked about, so I'll skip through them. And with that, you have a landscape of all the cloud AI tools that can help you enable large number of generative AI use cases. Now, let me invite Arnav, Chief Product Officer at Jiva, to dive into a very impressive real-world AI use case empowering farmers and bringing equality in agriculture to improve their livelihoods. Welcome, Arnav. I'm so excited to have you here.
So excited to be here, Priyanka.
Amazing. Well, why don't we start with an introduction of what Jiva is and your role at Jiva?
Sure. So we would like to call Jiva a farmer services platform. So what we're trying to do at Jiva is build a phygital network, a physical plus digital network of farmers, collectors, intermediaries, in order to create a step change in the livelihoods of smallholder farmers. So I'll start off with a quick fact. About 70% of the world's total food produce comes from smallholder farmers. And about 70% of the world's smallholder farmers are below the poverty line. So what we're trying to do at Jiva is create a step change in their livelihoods. About me, I am a really terrible electrical engineer by education. Post that, I started off my career as a backend developer, built a few mobile backend as a service tools at Temenos Coney. Helped build an optimization engine for supply chain and last mile routing at Locus. And now I'm trying to solve a problem for 500 million smallholder farmers.
That is such an amazing journey. Also, like an inspiring career journey as well. So with that, I guess a little bit more about your role as a Chief Product Officer at Jiva. What are your responsibilities? What are the problems that you're trying to solve?
Sure. So we'll have to understand a bit about the entire rural ecosystem before we start talking a bit about that.
Yeah.
Now, at Jiva, we started off by providing advisory to farmers, which was not taken very well because, what farmers would typically feel is that these people are sitting in their own ivory towers, coming out and telling us about farming advice, which we have been doing for like 150 years now. Yeah. So we started off by giving advice, but that didn't fly very well. So we started diversifying into 3 different verticals, advisory still being one of them, but inputs and offtake being 2 other transactional verticals for farmers.
Okay.
Now, when we talk about inputs, it's everything that actually goes inside the earth, seeds, insecticides, pesticides, maybe seed treatment. Offtake is when the harvest is ready, where do the farmers sell it? Now, the entire ecosystem is just full of a lot of intermediaries in the entire space. So a farmer would typically sell their harvest to a buyer, who would sell it to another buyer, who would sell it to another bigger buyer. And then there is loss of margin at every node. And in the end, the farmer is the one who suffers. They get the least amount of money in the entire system. Now, what Jiva has tried to do is bring in some level of disintermediation in this entire supply chain. Now, what we do is we have a network of rural entrepreneurs who help sell inputs to the farmers and who also help procure their harvest when it's ready.
Okay.
Now, why rural entrepreneurs in the first place, right? Why not farmers directly? So we started off in Indonesia, and what we figured out was that the level of tech literacy in rural Indonesia was very low. So reaching out to the farmers directly was an extremely painful thing to do. And also there was lack of trust. People could just use a smartphone to watch a video, maybe go through their chats. But making a transaction on a smartphone was something that people were not really comfortable doing.
Yeah.
So we started thinking about what would be the next best or next closest digital touch point. And we didn't have to go far. A lot of times it's within the family of farmers. It's either their kids or women in the family who are extremely entrepreneurial They run their home's finances, so they think that they can also run the entire business, and they have been doing it pretty successfully. So a lot of our intermediaries or collectors are women and children of the farmers who we actually work with. So that's how Jiva came into being. And then we started looking at some problem statements, what would be the actual problems plaguing the farmers, right? The first was access to credit. A lot of times, like purchasing harvest from a farmer is a capital intensive affair. A smallholder farmer would pretty much have maybe 4.5 tons of harvest. And even for a collector to purchase it, you need working capital. Now, local money lenders charge an extremely huge amount of interest. And there are not enough publicly available documentation that you can actually reach out to a bank with and get credit. So Jiva started solving for this first. Now, in my role as a CPO at Jiva, I think the major thing that I do is get out of the way of a phenomenal team. But barring that, we are trying to solve these small problems for the entire collector, farmer, and the entire supply chain ecosystem that exists in the market out there.
Yeah, and it's very inspiring because you're trying to piece the problem into smaller areas and then handling those areas and still able to see the real impact to the farmers themselves who are the initiators of this entire harvest.
It's an extremely fulfilling feeling. So I'll just take an example. So we were out there testing out, because we can build the world's most sophisticated software, but if it doesn't get used by the end user, it's worth nothing.
Yeah.
So we went out there and started interviewing farmers. And one of the stories was pretty emotional for us. So we interviewed a farmer who actually thought that she grew about 3 tons of corn every year because that's what she was getting paid for.
Right.
But when we weighed the corn, we realized that it was about 6.5 tons.
Wow.
So she was teary-eyed. She first thought that we actually made a mistake and, we maybe weighed it wrong. But that's the reality. Jiva has started being well known for having honest scales. That's what people tell us when we go on ground. This year we're trying to quantify what honest scales would really translate to.
Yeah.
But anecdotally, that's the kind of impact that we are trying to create on the ground.
So amazing. It even brings tears to my eyes because I've grown up in a family of farmers. So I know it can be, it is the hard work that goes into it. And when you're not told how much, truly how much that hard work values, it's, this is a huge impact. So with that in mind, I guess, what is the role of AI in the Jiva product ecosystem?
Sure. So we started talking about offtake, which is purchasing of harvest, right? So there's an extreme amount of working capital that actually goes in the entire operations. So just for scale, a kilogram of corn, which is the primary commodity that we deal with, it costs about 30 cents. A truck worth of corn is probably about $1,000. In the rural ecosystem, $1,000 is potentially 3-month earning for a local entrepreneur. So you need that amount of working capital to even procure a single truck of corn. And probably in a season, you're going to procure 5 or 6, and that's going to be your earnings.
Yeah.
Now, how do you manage this working capital? Now, Jiva can give out credit advances so that local entrepreneurs can actually make this happen. But we also need to be extremely sure of default.
Right.
We want to avoid default as much as possible because, while we want to create, a sustainable impact in the livelihoods of farmers, we are a profit for purpose company.
Right.
So what we try to do is we have an in-house credit worthiness index that gets generated every single time a credit request comes in. And it takes into account a lot of parameters, including the farmers' financials, their family financials, maybe some data from publicly available sources, and their propensity to repay over the last few seasons. And that's how we're able to qualify every single loan request that comes in. We have been using Scikit and TensorFlow to enable this model.
Okay.
And that's where the AI comes in. The second part, which we've been doing for the farmers, is called Crop Doctor. It's a disease diagnosis and a solution suggestion platform. So you click a picture, and we can tell you if your crop is all right or if it's plagued by a disease, and then give you cultural, biological, and chemical controls that you can put in place. to remediate the situation. Now, this is something that we have been running off of Vertex. So I was pretty happy that you talked about Vertex some time ago. And what we've realized is that training with Vertex has enabled us to maintain a really lean team of data science. Like otherwise, implementing this across entirety of Indonesia, across multiple crops would have taken a huge effort.
Yeah, and as you expand and grow into other countries, it's going to be really crucial because the crops might change,
Yes.
and that would mean the model has to be updated and changed too.
Of course, and this is a pretty obvious thing. So when we were evaluating other geographies, we also figured out that primary geography, Indonesia, is extremely tropical.
Right.
But let's say we enter into a geography like India, it's temperate and tropical.
Right.
So the same crop may have different diseases. The same crop may have different solutions for those diseases. So yes, using AI for this is an extremely obvious choice.
That is amazing. So two ways in which using AI, just for summary here. One is the creditworthiness, so identifying fraud, building that model with scikit-learn and TensorFlow. And then the second is the crop doctor, which is built on Vertex AutoML. As you focus on the end customers, how are you thinking about growth and expansion?
So we started Jiva expanding across Indonesia in 2020, late 20, early 21. And we started off with a single province. Currently, we are operating in like 5 provinces. The idea is for this year, we want to expand into every single corn growing region in Indonesia. That's huge. We also want to expand across crops. So like corn was the first crop that we started with. We might go into Chile, look at some of the crops of interest, and then expand geographically to other countries. But in doing so, while we are a tech-enabled startup, a very significant portion of our business is ops heavy. Right. So the easiest way to deal with problems is throw people at a problem, right? That is the one thing that we want to avoid. So while we grow as a company, while we expand our footprint in terms of the number of crops or in terms of the number of geographies that we operate in, we want to maintain really sustainable ratios of people. Like an internal resource should be able to manage a much higher number of intermediaries, and they in turn should be able to reach out to a much higher number of farmers.
Right.
So the way in which we would want to do it is to manage by exceptions. We cannot have human intervention in every single decision we make. We cannot have a lot of data entry that can otherwise be just gotten rid of using some image processing. So that's the idea for this year. That's how we want to grow.
That is amazing. It's like not throwing people at the problem, but throwing more tech to sort of reduce the burden on the operations side of things. Now, finally, what are your top 3 tips for other startups that are looking to incorporate, let's say, AI into their work and growing their business?
I think this is a perfect question for an LLM.
Yeah.
But I would want to say, a lot of times founders find AI extremely daunting, and people are afraid to start small. So if you're able to fragment your bigger class of problems into smaller problems and use AI to solve each one of them, that's a much better approach to get started. Like the way we have been trying to do a lot of things is we don't want to solve the entire credit cycle. Like we are trying to solve for some level of optimization in generating a creditworthiness index. Now, this leads me to the second tip, which is implementation of AI comes in with own internal change management challenges, right? Like people are not very comfortable in letting a system decide what needs to be done. Right. So while you're going in for the plunge, be sure that you set up a very robust change management infrastructure. Like invest in the team that will help you implement that AI.
Yeah.
And the third one is, like I've been seeing a lot of people just throw around AI, in their pitch decks. Please avoid doing that. Not every automation is worthy enough to be called an AI. Yeah? I think that would be the 3 things I would tell founders.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for spending time with me today, with our audience. I think these are amazing tips that people could just apply starting today. So amazing to have you here. Thank you.
It's a pleasure being here.